Another new filming setup. I don't know what to tell you. Anytime I move, it takes like a good 3 years before I find like the setup that works for me. We'll see how this goes. I suspect it's going to be like a dash echoey, but you just never know. So today I wanted to do a video applying the Mirage Shift Cream Cheek palette. I'm gonna be using the medium palette today. In my launch video, I was wearing the light palette. I have like the whispers of a tan, so I just think we should like delve into the medium. If you haven't watched my launch video, I would suggest it, just because I go really in depth to talking about the formulas and kind of the whole concept behind the palette. But just to give you guys like a brief refresh or overview, the whole point of the palette is to essentially make it your own. So there's a bronzer, blush, highlight, and then a mixing balm. The bronzer, blush, and highlight are more of a kind of like satin skin finish on their own. Anything can be mixed or layered with the balm. The balm's a little bit more kind of like tacky, really, really glowy, and it has really fine pearls in it. So it will add a little bit of pearl and glow and everything like that to the other formulas if you mix them. And it will also help to sheer them out. If you want to keep like really full pigmented, like if you like a really pigmented blush and all of that, then you can just layer the balm over top if you want tons of pigment, but still lots of glow. So that's kind of the gist of it. I'm gonna start with the bronzer and I'm just going to apply it really nice and sparingly. Sometimes it's just like, why do I even say things? Because like sparingly to me is likely not sparingly to you. And these just, they build up really, really beautifully. They blend out really beautifully. They're just the bomb. They also do work really well if you're like an underpainting fan and you like to do your bronzer and blush underneath your foundation. They work really beautifully for that as well. Honestly, a lot of the times these days, because I'm feeling better about my skin, I just won't even wear foundation. Subtle flex. I will just go around with like the bronzer and blush and like a little dot of the highlight kind of thing and just leave it at that. Taking a little bit of the bronzer across my nose because I want the whisper of a tan that I mentioned earlier to be more like, oh, she does have a tan. She spends time in the sun with sunscreen, but like, you know, every once in a while, a couple of the sun rays get through anyways, and then she wakes up the next morning with a flawless, breezy tan. Are you getting that vibe? So for my blush, one of my favorite things to do is mix the blush and the highlight. The blush itself in every palette has no pearl to it, same with the bronzer, which I think is really nice because sometimes you just don't want it and you have the option here. But I'm gonna do about like a 50-50 mix of highlight and blush. I'm taking my little palette knife and I'm just mixing it on the back of my hand. This will lighten up the shade a little bit, obviously. I mean, the highlight is a lighter color than the blush, but not so much that the blush won't still have an impact, you know? It really just kind of provides, I knew I shouldn't have said sparingly because I knew I wasn't going to apply this sparingly, and that's just the truth. But it just gives this really beautiful kind of glow to the blush that isn't over the top. It's just stunning. I just love it. And I really wanted that highlight to not be dewy in itself. Not only so that like more skin types and stuff like that can kind of like ease their way into cream products by not having this like super dewy, glowy highlight if they're, you know, people with oily skin that are kind of just like, just like not into it yet. But also because then I think it's really nice. It gives you the flexibility if you want to have some more pearl in your blush, but you don't want it to be glowy necessarily, then you can mix it with the highlight rather than the balm. If you want that extra glow and the pearl, then you can mix it with the balm, or you can mix it with the highlight and the balm if we really want to go fucking crazy. The one thing that I really want to mention with this balm, because I feel like a lot of people are going to be kind of like nervous to use it. Actually, I'm just going to take a little bit of that blush. I'm going to grab a little bit more on the back of my hand with a tiny bit of the highlight and just do it over my lips. But with the balm, I do feel like people are gonna be a little nervous to use it at first and might be nervous that it will emphasize texture. I feel the exact opposite. I just feel like that balm diffuses texture in the most beautiful way. It just makes your skin look And even if you're not like into the like super glowy, really, really dewy kind of style, just mixing in like the tiniest little bit, like let's say like 20% to 80% blush or bronzer or whatever, it just gives it this like extra emollient texture that blends so beautifully into the skin and sits so beautifully onto the skin. So just to give you guys like a good view of this, I'm gonna do the highlight by itself on one cheek, and then I will probably layer the balm over top afterwards, let's just be honest. And then on the other side, I'll mix the highlight with the balm so that you can kind of see like how much more satin the highlight is by itself. So this is just, I'm just taking my finger and I'm going right into that highlight, and I'm just going to press it onto the top of my cheekbone. Will I ever have a mascara that doesn't transfer? I don't know. And I'm just like really kind of melting that into my blush and bronzer. But that's, hopefully this light is picking it up. I didn't really test the lighting in this spot before I set up here, so we'll see. Definitely not matte in any world, but I think you'll be surprised how much more satin it is in person, where a lot of cream highlights are just naturally more kind of like dewy, glossy. And then on this side, I'm gonna take my palette knife, grab a little bit of the highlight. Same thing, I'll probably do just under 50-50, a little bit less balm than that. And then same thing, I'll just take my finger and tap that on. So hopefully you can see that's like just a little bit more of that kind of like a glossy finish, and then a little bit more satin over there. So I'm just gonna grab a little tiny bit of that balm just so we're matching on both sides now. And then I'll just go over top with that. Here's one thing I need to tell you about. You're gonna think this is fucking crazy, okay? Once you get the palette, should I just do a video once people probably have the palette in there? I'm just kidding, I'm gonna tell you now, okay? I can't remember whether or not I mentioned this in my original launch video, so I hate the fact that I'm gonna have to watch my entire launch video back to make sure that I didn't mention it there so that I can cut it out here if I did or leave it in if I didn't. But our partner, Daniel, we were talking about this palette on a call, and he was like, oh, you should try doing a reel where you like put the balm underneath your foundation and then, you know, like put your foundation over top for like a glowy base. And I was like, oh, that would be insane. Actually, as I said, it's like more of that kind of like tacky, glossy texture. I'm like, that, there's just like no way in hell that that would work well and look good. So no, you're crazy, and just like don't ever speak to me again. And then while we were on the call, I was so adamant that this would be insane, but while we were on the call, I was just like, ugh, fuck it, I'm just gonna try this. It is probably one of my favorite ways to wear the palette at this point. It is shockingly nice. Like, it is so, so beautiful, especially if you have a foundation that's a little bit more kind of like satin or even matte. It just makes this like really incredible, glowy, like lit from within style dewiness. It is stunning. I've tried with quite a few different foundations. Like what I'll usually do is I'll put the balm sort of like all over my cheek area, and then sometimes like a little down my temples, and then I'll go over top with my foundation. And I've tried cream and liquid foundations, and they both work really beautifully over top of it. It's honestly shocking. What I'll do though is like, instead of doing, like if you typically are more of like someone that like wipes your foundation on, so to speak, like swipes it on, I would do more of a stippling motion. So for me, I'll put the balm on my cheek area, I'll stipple around the areas that I don't have the balm applied first, and just so I'm not like kind of tracking it around my face, and then I'll go over top and stipple on the areas where I did apply the balm. It is honestly so beautiful. I feel like even saying it, you're gonna be listening to this like, cool, but like obviously I'm not gonna try it. Just try it. Just try it one time, okay? And if you're too scared and you need me to just do a video to show you how beautiful it looks so that you're convinced to try it, I can do that. I can do that. But I can't wait to see how you guys utilize this palette. I've had so much fun I mean, obviously I've always been like a mixer at heart. It's nice just having everything in one palette that like, I know it works all together really well. I know that I can add a little bit of extra glow through just like mixing the highlight with the bronzer or the blush, and I know that I can add like some real true like dewiness with the balm and just kind of like tailor it to exactly what I want that day. My taste in makeup have just changed so much over the years, and even now, like day to day, season to season, what I want in my makeup looks different constantly. So when I'm wearing like my full kind of makeup, I'm wearing like eyes and lashes and all of that, I usually do tend to go like a little bit more dramatic with my blush and my contour and stuff. But if I'm not if I'm just doing like brows, no mascara, no foundation, then it's nice to be able to like really subtly apply my bronzer, really dilute my blush with my balm or my highlight or whatever kind of thing, and just make it like a really nice subtle application. I love these palettes. I'll never get over it. It's honestly, everything is my favorite thing we've created, but this one's pretty special. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know, eventually we're hoping to do refills. I can't remember if I mentioned this in my launch video either. I'm gonna have to rewatch the whole thing anyways, so just whatever. If you take out this insert, which I show you guys in that video that you can like pop out the pans from the back and then you can take out the insert itself. If you take out that insert, you can fit in an extra balm or highlight pan. So you can have like your blush, your bronzer, 2 highlights, a balm. It was serendipitous. It was not actually planned that way, but it's just so great. So that's kind of nice too, because like for me, when I don't have the whisper of a tan, I really like that light highlight on myself. Even when I do have a tan, I still use that highlight, but the medium highlight and even the deep highlight, I really, really love mixed with any of the blush shades. They just work so well together. So it's nice to be able to like, if I want to, I can take out that insert and I can just like pop in an extra highlight shade for mixing purposes. But anyways, that's really it. It's not it. I could go on forever, but I wanted to do just a quick video to show you guys the palette in action and how I kind of use it on a day-to-day basis when I'm not being insane and applying the balm underneath my foundation, which isn't insane. It's the best thing ever. You're gonna fucking see it. Okay. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for hanging out and chatting. I'll see you next time. Peace out.